Thank you for your interest in Earth Deeds. If you're watching this, you're probably well aware of global warming and other environmental crises, and are wanting to work together to create a healthy planet. So I'll cut to the chase and explain how Earth Deeds helps organizations understand their carbon footprints and support local sustainability projects of their choice. Here's how it works. Think of events and activities you're involved with. We'll call these teams. Now think of sustainability projects you care about and want to support. Using Earth Deeds online tools, teams can measure and reduce the carbon footprints of these events, team fund small contributions based on the true costs of these impacts, transfer these funds to community-based sustainability projects of their choice, and receive a carbon-conscious eco-label for their efforts. It's pretty cool. For example, a sustainable living class measured its carbon footprint and supported a student group that promotes green behavior on their own campus. 50 youth activists used Earth Deeds to measure the impact of attending a conference and funded 2 of their own projects, a nature youth camp in Thailand and a program in Zimbabwe designing permaculture landscapes for schools. And a study abroad organization accounted for their impacts on all of its programs and contributed to projects in 10 of their host communities. Earth Deeds makes this all simple. We generate a link that leads participants to a calculator where they can measure and record their travel footprint, and then check out where they can see the social cost of their emissions and contribute toward a project that has meaning to that team. In this case, a renewable energy project in Nicaragua. And if you don't already have a project in mind, you can search over 100,000 projects on our site. We're also developing reduction calculators for participants to commit to lifestyle changes that result in lower carbon emissions, video series on climate change and other topics, and other resources to help participants become carbon conscious. Now, you may be thinking this sounds similar to carbon offsetting with companies like TerraPass or Native Energy, where you can calculate emissions from an activity and then pay one of these companies to invest in projects to prevent a certain amount of carbon pollution from entering the atmosphere, and then you can claim that you've mitigated or neutralized these emissions. Now, Earth Deeds is similar to carbon offsetting in that we also believe that it's vitally important to measure our greenhouse gas emissions, reduce these emissions wherever possible, and also price them. Because, really, we're experiencing global warming and other crises precisely because we have not accounted for these externalized costs. And our governments and corporations are mostly going on with business as usual. The time to act is now. But Earth Deeds is moving beyond carbon offsetting and has introduced a number of out-of-the-box innovations that create an entirely new process that we call onsetting. For example, by focusing on carbon mitigation, offsetting companies have to pay verifiers and other middlemen, which means less money gets to the actual projects. There are also frequent doubts whether their projects would have happened even without offset funding, in which case they're not really offsetting anything. Furthermore, pricing carbon based on what project holders will sell the mitigation aspects of their projects for is confusing and not connected to the real-life impacts of these emissions. And the goal of carbon neutrality has often been compared to 16th century indulgences where parishioners could buy a clean conscience and delay meaningful action. Onsetting is different. For example, by releasing the concept of offsetting and the need to be neutral, we can get much more funding to the actual projects. We can also stop worrying about whether our money is actually mitigating a certain amount of emissions and start supporting projects that we care about and know are doing great things. Small projects, local projects that matter to us. And rather than price carbon based on market forces, we believe that we should price carbon based on the best scientific evidence of the cost to all future generations of emitting carbon pollution now, through declining agriculture and fisheries, disaster relief, adaptation to sea level rise. All these things have costs. The best estimate we've found is called the social cost of carbon, which was developed by the EPA, DOE, and 10 other governmental agencies, and currently prices CO2 at $37 a metric ton. And rather than carbon neutrality, Earth Deeds promotes carbon consciousness, and says, hey, let's be grateful for the Earth's gifts, notably fossil fuels, which have allowed us to do amazing things. And let's recognize that there is a cost in using these gifts. And now let's pay it forward in ways that can make real differences in communities that matter to us. Yes, of course, we need to reduce emissions as quickly and as fully as possible. But we also need to do so much more. We need to create resilient food systems. We need to preserve biodiversity and fight for climate justice. And we need to deconstruct and replace the political and economic structures and even the mental models and worldviews that led to these crises in the first place. Onsetting supports all of this and more. Global warming is the greatest threat humans have ever faced, and it's unfolding in our lifetimes. We need to work together. We can't afford to be passive bystanders, hoping someone else will fix things. Earthdeed's big solution is empowering the millions of small, local solutions, people and projects working now to create sustainable communities and a healthy planet for our children and for all life. Thank you for being a part of the growing community of people and organizations taking responsibility for their emissions with Earthdeeds and being the change we wish to see in the world. Please follow us on social media and contact us if you have any questions. Thank you.